Share screen, pick the right tab, please. Okay, can everyone see? Seeing working? Okay, good, because it didn't make the noise it's supposed to make when it opens the slideshow. All right. Welcome, everyone, to Wrenching Yourself from the Jaws of Canon, Creating and Recreating Personal History. This is a panel aimed primarily at fiction folk, but I think most people can relate to this one. Now, what should you expect? Who is this guy? Why is he here? What is he talking about? You should also expect jokes and some introspection. I'll be keeping an eye on chat as best I can. Ronnie, you made it! But of course, while presenting, there's only so much I can look at it because I'm using my phone. So starting off, who is this guy? I am Archmage Khadgar of the Kirin Tor, Lord of Nethergard, Keeper of the Eternal Watch, etc., etc. I just go by Khadgar. Khadgar Chromatath, if you need a last name. That's not canon. I don't have a last name. They didn't give me one. I use a variety of pronouns, he, him, its, and a couple of pairs of neopronouns. I don't care which ones you use for me, and as for the very unusual ones, when orcs give you pronouns, make lemonade. Or, that's how that saying goes, right? I think that's how that saying goes. I am from the Warcraft universe. I'm best known in World of Warcraft, and I diverged from canon fairly early on while being fairly canon typical up to that point. For those familiar, I diverge partway through the Burning Crusade because I've run into a dragon that I end up adopting. That didn't happen in canon. I did not adopt a dragon. Why am I giving this presentation? Canon me had an accident. A pretty big accident. It's okay, he got better. The city didn't get better, but he got better. So thinking my canon self died a very terrible death was very upsetting, because I saw myself as him a little more than was healthy for me personally. Even though I had almost no actual solid memories beyond a certain point with him. I just looked at the things he'd done and went, well, that seems like something I do, so I suppose that happened. But lying on the floor and feeling like a baked potato that someone had forgotten to poke holes in made me think, do I have to be him? If I've been given nothing to work with, am I stuck guessing or making assumptions forever? Am I just dead now? Can I choose to separate myself from him? And if so, how much? How far can I go? How far is too far? Well, everyone, I'm happy to announce, no amount of far is too far. Welcome to Khadgar's Wild Ride. I'm about to blow your minds, I hope. You're on my wild ride. There is no getting off of it. Welcome to hell. Make life take the lemons back. You don't have to live with what you're given, whether that be something you hate or a big gaping void. You can do whatever you want forever. Make yourself something new, rewrite it, create it in the first place. I went back and diverted the timeline so dramatically that I can't possibly be canon Khadgar because he doesn't have 3 beautiful adopted dragon children. So anything bad that happens to him isn't real and can't hurt me. Okay, yes, it can, actually, but it hurts me less than it did when I got hit with, did I just fucking die? Alright, what am I talking about? I'm talking about creating, recreating, reshaping, or otherwise altering your history, or at the very least, your identity's history. For the sake of convenience, I will describe Noamata as your history or as your past. This is absolutely applicable for other temporal situations, but this is significantly easier, and trying to fit multiple tenses into a sentence is kind of a nightmare. Thank you to Poppy personally for making me think, shit, I can't just refer to it as your past. Because whenever I think of a parallel life, I go, Poppy. So thanks for that. Khadgar, what are noemata? Noema, plural noemata, pronounced however you damn well please, and I'm not taking corrections, typically refers to memories from your alter-human identity, which I will refer to as either your identity or your type, or other things you just know. If you know that you are a wolf with blue eyes and black fur, congratulations. That's as much noemata as memories of fighting ninjas as Naruto. Poppy, I can't hear you. I'm making Poppy take the pronunciation back. Sometimes you aren't blessed with an archive of memories. Sometimes you know who or what you are, and that's it. This can be a problem with alter humans of all kinds, but I'm mostly speaking as fiction folk myself in a system of fiction folk, predominantly fictives. It's very frustrating. Similarly difficult as having noemata you don't like. Unpleasant memories, the knowledge that you've done things you'd rather you hadn't, and generally just other things you don't like. To everyone correcting my pronunciation, remember that Therian's technically the incorrect pronunciation. And almost no one says Therian, so... Yeah, sorry. Sorry to curse you all with this knowledge. Anyway, if you've done something particularly unpleasant, whether or not you like it, and or if you're a villain of some type, may I recommend my headmate Goratrix's panel, Living with a Problematic Fictional Identity and Where to Go From Here. It's on our website. No matter what, though, most alter humans end up relying on their noemata to guide their experiences of their identity, and this is especially true of fictives. This can be extremely difficult if you're plagued by things you dislike, a yawning void, or even just empty gaps in your memory and questions left unanswered. People talk a lot about how to recover noemata, or in particular, past life memories, with a strong focus on making sure you do it right to get real memories and not just wishful thinking that your brain made up. I mean, you've all heard this, right? When people give advice for recovering things, being otherkin, like, oh, make sure you don't get anything that's wishful thinking. This might be controversial, but so what if you do? What is real, anyway? I mean it. If something your brain just comes up with to fill a gap in your memory feels real enough to you and you're happy with it, why question if it's real or not? Is there any way to tell? Even if there was, does it matter? Identity is shaped by what you remember and believe about yourself and your experiences. Why would you dismiss something that you like just because you maybe made it up? Additionally, entirely voluntary identities exist. Just because someone chose to be a cat and came up with what that means, or even an entire history for that cat, doesn't mean that they're any less that cat than someone who is a cat involuntarily. You are no more valid because your memories came to you involuntarily. What you make up for yourself matters just as much. Just because an identity started involuntary doesn't mean it needs to stay that way. You can monkey with it just like you can create an entirely new voluntary identity. What's to stop you from filling in the missing pieces? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You don't know what happened to your Fectotype's brother? Sit down and figure it out. I like writing it into fanfiction, personally. You can also write an outline, draw a comic, talk about it to a friend, or even just think about it and come to a logical conclusion that you like and keep it to yourself if you'd rather. I do this in a really normal way. I sat down and sorted my memories into two categories, keep and discard. I ended up keeping everything except for one bad sexual decision I made in my teens. No details. Happens to many of us. And got rid of that because I didn't like it. and it didn't feel significant to who I am now. Critically, I kept a lot of bad things that happened to me because I felt them necessary to explaining who I am. You don't need to do that if you don't want to. Then I asked myself, what am I missing? What do I need? How do I separate myself from canon? So I sat down and wrote a fanfiction series of very normal length about it that I'm still writing at the time of this panel. It's normal and I'm not being weird. Make your own canon. By writing out my life from the moment of canon divergence onward, I was able to take firm control of my personal history and narrative, letting me control every aspect of it, such that I could answer many questions in my life. How evil was Medivh? Not at all. What happened to my birth family? The Scourge. Can I prevent many bad things that happened in canon if I had different information? Yes. I partially did this out of spite. I don't like canon. So I changed something very drastic early on. I adopted my oldest daughter, Prima, a young dragon. 2 more adopted dragons followed. As a result, canon couldn't happen, because I was so different. Fuck canon, look at my son. Look at him, he was just born in this. Look at him. He looks like a little wet rat and I love him so much. Don't worry, you'll see all my children at the end. Don't worry, I needed him to be little and wet. He has a better image coming, I promise. So, what about you? You can do this too. I had the advantage of having essentially no memories past a certain point. The point I chose to use is my divergence from canon, but let's say you aren't just filling in blank space. You have memories you don't like, you want to overwrite. Can you? Who's going to stop you? Me? The cops? You can do whatever you want forever. You can rationalize this however you want. The main ways I can think of are either that you're rewriting your own history, literally changing it, or that you're going in and writing another timeline that you're choosing to identify with more strongly than the timeline you were originally from. We have a member of our system, Kyr, who has a few dozen sources and timelines he's from. They're all equally real and true for him. Why not you? And I don't see any difference between a fictive doing this and someone who's, say, Dragonkin. Reconstruct that language you barely remember. Do some speculative biology on your fantasy species. Pick a specific forest that your wolf stereotype is from. This is no less valid than sitting down and meditating on your true memories, in my opinion. Depending on the origin of your identity, that might not even be an applicable concept. Again, if a fully voluntary identity is something you can integrate, why not voluntary aspects to an otherwise involuntary identity? Seize control. Change whatever you want. Fill in any holes that bother you. You are not bound to the whims of the universe or your brain. What if I remember something later that contradicts what I came up with? You're allowed to be wrong and integrate it later. I won't snitch. You don't have to tell anybody. It could just be a different timeline. You can throw it in the garbage if you don't like it. Listen, I'm not going to snitch. You don't snitch, I don't snitch. Nobody snitch. We promise all, however many people are here, can we be quiet? Good. This is a fantastic tool for answering questions that are eating at you, connecting disconnected noemata, and giving yourself connections, desires, and a backing of memory to lean on. It's very helpful if your source is fragmentary or lost, such as old stories or myths. It's reduced my distress significantly, and taken me from barely fronting in a year and a half to fronting for, well, it is 6 months now. It was nearly 6 months when I wrote this. Straight, because I love being upfront. I love being alive. I love being me. Oh, the dog is barking, I'm sorry. Most of all, I love being the me I chose to be. I used to tolerate myself, but now I wake up every day excited to be me. And if you're happy with who you are and what you have, that's great. You don't have to use this tool. I just want you to have it in case you ever need it. I think too many people are afraid of having fake identities and fake memories, and they need this hammer in the toolbox to knock the wall of fear down to let them be who they want to be. But how? You have to let yourself make what you change or create real. It has to be real and true to you. You have to make something that feels right, that feels genuine. It doesn't have to match canon or your memories, but it has to be something that feels good or true. If you struggle with this, that's okay. Keep trying. My recommendation is to make some art about it, whether that be visual, writing, music, or something else. Remember that identity is a part of you, so let it serve you well. And forgive me if I don't remember where I heard this the first time, but let yourself live more beautifully the second time. Now, I say that, and then I got to my conclusion, and my original outline contained the text, I do a cool kickflip on my metaphorical skateboard that makes people shout, "Go, Grandpa, go!" Say something really inspiring, and wrap everything up in a nice conclusion that has people cheering and sends them out happy and introspective. I couldn't think of a conclusion, so I'm opening my wallet and showing you my children. Please look at my children. On the left is Prima. She's the oldest. She was adopted first. She's here with me in the system. She says hi. In the middle is Rathian. He's the youngest. I adopted him second. And third is Goriana. She's the middle child. She was adopted third, but she's huge. She had magic. Afflicted. She was afflicted, but that's okay. Um, as for credits, the official art is by various artists working for Blizzard Entertainment, the bastards. I'm sure the artists are fine, but boo, Blizzard. Can we get a boo for Blizzard in the chat? Boo for Blizzard Entertainment. The unofficial art was all done by Ronnie, including the below. Can we get a cheer for Ronnie in the chat? And special thanks goes to my partner Medivh, who was no help at all, and demanded that he be on this. He wanted to be involved. Okay. That's my presentation. Who wants to do a Q&A? Close my phone. I can look at the chat regular style now. Okay. All that being said, happy to answer some questions. Oh, happy to facilitate a conversation. Wow, I got through that really fast. I'm much faster than Goratrex. We should always just do slideshows. That's nice and easy. All right, I will try to keep up with the panel stage chat, but I'll be prioritizing panel questions. Please put your questions there. If you put them in the panel stage chat, I probably won't answer them. Let me see. Panel questions. While listening to the panel, something came to mind. I don't know if it's a proper therapy method, but IRL trauma stuff or even just mundane nightmares. Sometimes rewriting an event helps. I feel like something similar could indeed help with being a victim here. Yes. Oh, I remember I talked about this to someone and they told me what kind of therapy this is, and I totally spaced putting it in the presentation. But yes, no, this is a real real strategy. Maybe. That might be what it's called. I don't know. How do you go about convincing yourself that editing like this is actually a real and valid thing to do? You have to have some confidence in your own ability to tell your own story. You have to sit down and do whatever you need to do to make it feel real to you. Most people, I really do think your best method is to make art about it, because then it's something tangible you can look at and it tricks you into believing it. If you're not confident, make art about it. Eventually you'll realize that it's meaningful to you. Share it with a friend, talk about it, write it, draw it, do something, make something, journal about it. It's repetition, it's familiarity, it's making it more present to you than canon, than the past you were given. Let's see, checking chat. Yes, Ronnie, I've had a lot of conversations with Roshan, and Faye really helped me kind of have to narrow down what I wanted to say in this, because it was really just ideas until I had a real conversation. Thank you to Fractals and Fragments for saying this is worth waking up at 4 a.m. for. I feel like nothing's worth 4 a.m., but I really appreciate it. I don't think I know a single fiction folk who doesn't have at least some canon divergence. Why not diverge further in that case? That's kind of how I feel. I'm sure there's some that are entirely canon compliant, if only because there's so little canon to comply with. But most are divergent in my experience. Is he? Yes, Blair. I think that conversation was with you about therapy. Statistically, you and I were talking about therapy. We're always talking about therapy with us. Real is fake. I believe in you. I agree. Real is fake. Real is what you make it. You're always on that damn therapy. Yes. Building yourself as opposed to discovering yourself. You're sitting down, you're rolling up your sleeves, and you are making something for yourself. You're making something new. Even if you're changing something, you're actually just making something new. What you do? Sivan, I'm not going to read out both of those paragraphs. It's long. But thank you for sharing. Also, there's multiple words I am going to trip over, and then everyone's going to point and laugh. On my original Who Is This Guy slide, it just read Your New Grandpa, and I decided I did actually need to introduce myself, but I thought you'd all get a kick out of that. As someone with reality issues, reality is just what you make it, and that's cool. I agree. My partner, Medivh, is a little shaky on reality and time, and I've had to learn a lot about what is and isn't real from talking to him and watching him. No, that doesn't mean you helped with the panel. Oh, did someone ask for a link? Oh no. Oh, am I logged into AO3 on my? You need to be logged in to see the fic. Okay, I will link the fic, but no one can make any comments about me writing it for ultrahuman reasons because I'm using my singlet Sona. Because I'm engaging with fandom, and that's the way of things. You can't do that. Oh jeez. Oh no. Okay, I'm having technical difficulties, but specifically on my phone. Uh-oh. Oh no. It's the you asked me for a link and I'm like, I couldn't possibly. Ronnie, can you go get the link to Chromatic Light, please? I can't do it on my laptop because I'm not logged in. I don't remember my password and my phone's not cooperating. You can PM it to me and I can post it, or you can post it. Ugh. Thank you, Ronnie. And then Medivh's writing a second fanfic series that's an AU, and it's we're normal about it. Thank you, Ronnie. Poppy says, I'm semi-open about being Ben 10. Most of the fandom is chill. I really don't think you have to worry that much about non-alter humans finding your fiction hood weird. I do understand that. I think it best is, for me personally, if I keep it quiet. I'd rather be able to engage with people as a fellow fan. It's just easier. That is a personal preference for everyone. Do what you want. My general advice is to not be open about it, but if you want to, do it. Go crazy. Mispronouncing words means you read a lot. It's not a bad thing. So true. It's about giving yourself grace and giving yourself care for who you want to be. Thank you for putting it so clearly. Thank you for putting that so clearly. I wish I'd been able to boil it down to a thesis statement like that. That's really smart. We're totally open about being otherkin and mostly open about being a system. Fuck it, let people judge. I don't give a fuck. I have a knife. Yeah, I can imagine Magnus Archives is pretty chill about fiction, Ken. I'm in a server where there are Warcraft, fictionkin, and such, and that's fine. But elsewhere, I'd be scared. That'd be scary. Far too scary by far. Especially because people might be weird about Medivh because he kind of caused most bad things in Warcraft, but he was possessed, so it's not his fault. I think this can be useful even to fiction folk like me who are very focused on relying on memories and involuntary feelings, worry a lot about what happened or not, and strive for accuracy. Writing what you wanted to happen, regardless of whether it was real or not, can give us new perspectives about what we felt at the time and even open our minds to new memories in the future. Some level of voluntary action can always be useful, even for involuntary experiences. Frodo, I completely agree. I could not agree more. I think it's good for everyone. Go write a fanfiction about yourself. That's your homework, everyone. All 50 of you. Go write a fanfiction about yourself. Exactly, Dragons. Warcraft has a very large contingent of normie fans. I was in a group and someone was very, very mean recently for no reason because my friend who was in the group was playing a man in a dress and someone's like, "Oh, I need to be weird about it." And it's like, why do you need to be like a mean normie? Like they can't handle a man in a dress. They can't handle a fictive. They were so jealous of your dress. Treehouse, your dress looked awesome. I want to run more. I want to play more WoW, but people are mean. I want to do dungeons, but people are mean. No, heart. Oh, you'd think it's pseudo-medieval inspired, but nobody's wearing dresses. Everyone's in pants. Oh, oh. I could run a second panel on the technology level in World of Warcraft and the cultures and everything therein and how nothing makes sense. I'm not going to go into it, but it's very silly. That being said, since we're just kind of chatting for the most part, if anyone here plays WoW and wants to hang out, hit me up. You just have to promise to be niceys to me. Um, yeah, shoot me a message. We'll figure it out. Let me see. Panel questions. We got a message. Let people be weird about whoever they want. I killed everyone once. They got better. We all have pasts. And if you're gonna accept that people come from other universes, and you got to be cool with the fact that everyone has other lives, nobody's innocent. Nobody needs to be judged. See, you're completely right. But some people don't get that. Some people are like, no, let's have a whole thing about it and just calm down. Go eat some bread. Okay? Go have a delicious meal and maybe you'll feel better. Centaurus Festival raid group. I'd just be happy to get a dungeon group together, Ronnie. Dysphoria, good news. You can play cross-server these days. It doesn't matter. You just have to be in the same region. So if you are in, like, the Australia region servers, you can't play with me, which is sad. But if you are in the US regions, doesn't matter. You just have to be the same faction. But only sometimes. Max says, worrying about what's real or fake is kind of silly when you know all of this is considered fake to normies, so who cares about being fake in your mind? It's literally your mind. So true. Ronnie, yes, a dungeon group is 5, a raid group is 10 to 30. Or 40 in really old raids, which, can you imagine trying to get 39 other people together? I can't get 3 people together for Dungeons and Dragons night. Okay? I can't get 3 people together weekly consistently. Not even myself. Can you imagine trying to get 39 people weekly for a raid? Yeah, everyone, let's go do a raid right now. Like, oh, it's nuts. Dessler asks, not sure how to word this, but let's say that someone has an identity from a media that is currently ongoing and they haven't diverged from what the canon is showing, but that happens. Any tips for dealing with this and moving into reframing things? My tip would actually be to start early. um, the earlier you diverge, the less canon can hurt you. Because, for example, if you very suddenly die in canon, it can be very distressing when you weren't expecting it and it was done for shock value or similar. I'm not bitter. Um, I guess my tip is to just be ready. Be ready to diverge, have several ideas in mind, constantly be thinking about the different ways you can go from the point you're at, so that if it moves on in a direction you don't like, you can then just go, no, I'm going to go down one of these paths I thought about earlier. You just kind of have to be ready to jump uh, off the diving board and into the pool at any moment. You know, someone points a bow and arrow at you and it's like, well, I think it's time to depart. Thank you very much. Goodbye. We got half an hour of your panel slot left. This went so much faster than I thought. We're used to Goratrix, who takes a very long time because he writes like 2,000 to 3,000 words, and I just wrote like a quick PowerPoint. Do-do-do. Well, the good news is we have another half hour just to sit and chat. That's actually nice. I was kind of hoping we'd have a good like half hour to discuss this. Because I feel like it's worth talking about, and I don't know everything. I mean, the PowerPoint was, I wouldn't say bare bones, but I only had so far to go with it. I didn't have like a complex thing to tell you. Here is my idea. Here is how to use it. Let's talk about that. You just joined? Oh no, you missed the PowerPoint. You missed my jokes. You missed the pictures of my beautiful children. Don't worry, I think Paige is recording it. First half of the panel, I show you a PowerPoint. Second half of the panel, Grandpa moderates a discussion. Ooh, multitasking. No, Poppy, not sleeping through panels. I've never done that. I totally didn't miss Veet's panel this morning because it was really early and the time changed. I was really tired. I'm gonna have to watch that later. The sleep hypnosis panel for next year. The insomnia panel. Max says, I have a ton of experience with writing my canon from scratch, so if anyone has questions who are not beset by academia, feel free to talk to us. Yes, no, can confirm. King of this. I'm also open to messages. I usually have a little bit more specific advice when I get to sit down and think about it. Indie ASMR panel banging pots and pans together. Wake up, wake up, wake up. That's what it's like living with Medivh. No, never. Listen, okay, we talk about dating inside your system and it's great, but the bad news is you can't get away from him. So when your partner that lives in your head with you decides to be annoying, that's it. It's over. It's like, ooh, dating in your system is so nice. Yeah. Oh, it is a double-edged sword. I love him dearly, but I would describe us as a borderline situationship. Sometimes I want to hit him with a stick. I've joked that I want to run him over with a wagon and then nurse him back to health. The third wheeling is extreme. Maybe some of your headmates need to rewrite their histories of third wheeling, so they were doing something better with their time. All right. Ooh, a question. Yay, a question. Roshan asks, I suspect this is probably just a mental block on my part, not something actually material different, but I'll ask anyway. Is there any difference for you with specifically filling out the details of people that you know/remember a little bit of, but not much? For some reason, I'm more hesitant with that. I think because it feels weirder to make decisions about other people than to make decisions about myself. Though I guess considering I'm making decisions about my whole religion, which definitely affects other people, that's probably kind of silly. So the first thing you need to remember is you're not making decisions about other people. You're making decisions for yourself about the concept of other people. At this point where you are and where they are, they're real to you, but not in a way where your choices materially affect them. So you're actually making decisions about your own memories like you are everything else. It's just those memories happen to be people shaped, effectively. Um, However, this is a do as I say, not as I do. When I remembered things about my sister, I did lie down and suffer for like a week and then have to pick myself up and reconstruct the rest based on what little I knew. And Anduin in the treehouse had to walk me through it and kept saying, you have to go through it. I'm like, what if I go around it? What if I dig a hole under it? What if I go over it? What if I just don't acknowledge that I have a sister for the rest of my life and pretend I don't have feelings? Then one day, in many, many years, I'll die. And he said, you can't do that. So, yeah, see, look, he's in the chat right now. What if I did? So don't do what I did, which is struggle and get told to deal with my shit by a king. Um, it really is just taking what you know and putting it together like you would a character. It's the best you can do, and you can't sit with that unknown forever. It is unfortunately going to eat at you. You're just kind of dealing with your perceptions of people at this point. And you know what, Roshan? It's a real bitch. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. It's a real bitch. And there's nothing you can do about it. You just, again, the only way is through. The only way through is through, which is a stupid thing to say, but it's true. You can't go over it. You can't go around it. You have to go through. And I don't like it either, but I think that doing this work is usually going to be better for you and ultimately easier than the alternative, which is suffering forever. You are free to bitch about the whole time, no one can stop you. You can literally revamp it over and over and over until it's something that feels correct for you. There is no limit to the amount of times you can rewrite your own kin memories. Completely true. How do you do that? Exactly like you rewrote Canon. You just go, no, let's try again. Take two. You can do it as much as you want forever. And again, who's going to stop you? Me? The cops? The good news is there are no memory police. Oh, and if anyone comes by and tries to tell you that you're not real for reconstructing memories, block them. They're not worth your time. I encourage you all to use your block buttons on people you don't like. If someone's mean to you, block them. They're not worth your time. Block fake claimers. You don't owe anyone anything. No one knows your identity better than you. Completely true. Your life experiences and identity are your own and no one else's. Make of them whatever you wish. Also completely true. Trying to add little 100s to things everyone says in the chat that keeps like moving. Trying to speak. Everyone gets a 100. I'm giving you all A's on your test. You might even find out the reason why it didn't feel right was because it wasn't right. Completely true. Absolutely true. I love blocking people. Goratrix's favorite thing is blocking people. Anytime I need to block someone, he's like, ooh, gimme. Like, he gets a kick out of it. It's therapeutic. And the really great thing is if someone sends you like an anonymous message and you just block them and don't reply in any way, they're gonna seethe about it because they'll never know if they upset you or not. And they're just gonna be seething for a lot longer than you're gonna be thinking about it. It's great. If my identity exists in my head, then my head canon is canon. Exactly. During the panel yesterday, run by oh, the account was Abraxas. I forget exactly the name of the person running it because I was very sleepy, and it also started with an A. I'm not good with Atari. Thank you. The presentation from Atari, we got into this very interesting conversation about like what is canon and is there canon, and it was so good. It was very good. That was a very good panel. If anyone missed it, I really recommend watching the recording. And it was totally the first take and nothing. There were no technical difficulties. Let me see. Oh, I thought I heard a noise. Hello? Okay, no noise. Um, we're gonna just move on. On a similar note, thoughts on imposter syndrome and self-discernment, willingness to accept the possibility of being wrong. Ooh, thoughts on it. Um, I think you need to accept the possibility that you're wrong. I also think you need to be stubborn sometimes if you know that you are very prone to assuming that you're wrong. I think you just need to not worry about right and wrong most of the time, like correct or incorrect. I think you need to worry about what you like versus what you don't like, which is a little more subjective and a little easier for more people to deal with. Because if you like something, you should stick with it, and if you don't like something, then you shouldn't. How do you resolve feeling ambivalent about something? About memories, about people, about your response to what happened? You can't decide what you'd want or what really should have happened or what makes the most sense. Well, if you're ambivalent about it and you don't feel a need to change anything, then don't. I'm not saying you have to change things or even everything. You can be fine with things. I mean, I'm ambivalent about nearly everything that my canon self ended up doing and getting himself involved in. I'm ambivalent about most of that. I'm like, yes, I think in that situation I would do that. But I needed to get away from him because I needed to remove the ability for Blizzard Entertainment to hurt me very, very badly. So I'm fine with him. And I think you can be fine with things too. It just, you don't necessarily need to pick at it unless you have another reason to, at which point you can just kind of put it in a folder for later if you'd like. You don't have to delete everything. It's sort of like writing when you realize that you need to get rid of a scene, but you don't want to delete it. You just put it in a different document in case you need to look at it. Max says you can just have several running potential past, multiple choice that passed. So true. Oh, and million messages. Ooh, the response form's open. That's exciting. The universe is telling me it's okay to make it up. It is totally okay to make it up. My source established there are infinite versions of me because multiverse, that's another way to get around issues with canon divergence, I guess. Absolutely. If you can't, be like, ooh, I can't change canon. Don't. Just, okay, this is another timeline. This is an AU. I'm going to be from an AU either instead or also. You can be from both. You can maintain a connection to canon while still going, and I also have this other thing. It's kind of like how you can have two kin types. It's like, ooh, I'm a dragon, and I'm also, a wolf. These things might not be related, and they may have entirely different sets of memories, but one doesn't invalidate the other. Why can't you just be two Khadgars? It's two Khadgars. Sorry, it's a fairly niche joke. Yeah, dragon and wolf, the two kin types. I mean, that's why I thought of them first. You could also be a tapeworm, and some grass. But, By the way, if anyone's a tapeworm, I really want to hear about it. We put real as fake alongside do whatever you want forever slogans. Absolutely. Forget wearing a horseshoe crab. Oh, there was a tapeworm. Khadgar, will you be my grandpa? Of course. I would love to be your grandpa. The fandom calls me Dadgar because of my dad jokes and because I'm a great grandpa. Fun fact, I've been a grandpa in appearance since I was 17. I got hit with a nasty spell and it aged me prematurely into being an old man. And so I have looked like this for like 30 years. I'm like 40 something and also 1 William years old. How have you not heard Dadgar, Ronnie? We've been friends for... I've never brought up Dadgar. That's horrible. Unfortunately, I'm not so good at thinking of the dad jokes these days. You should come play WoW with me. We can run through the content that Canon me is in and hear all of his good jokes. Ooh, come play with me. Come play the worst game you've ever heard of. You can just get 1 month at a time. We'll talk. We can talk about it later. But you have heard of me. No, the Warcraft timeline was a mistake. It's so bad. There's a 10,000 year time skip at one point, and everything would make so much more sense. It was like a 500 to 1,000 year time skip because everyone just sits around doing nothing for 10,000 years. But at least it's not Star Wars. Which, we love Star Wars, don't get us wrong. This isn't us bashing Star Wars with the timeline. Ooh. Yeah, by the way, if you're like, oh, I'm I'm worried about my timeline not making sense. What if my canon doesn't make any sense? Like, have you seen the big published media these days? Nothing makes sense. 10,000-year time skip, how do they not have space flight? They keep killing each other. Have you seen the state of the MCU? Look at the Zelda timeline. Naruto's like that too. Look at Warrior Cat. I'm assuming these are all things you all love dearly, and then go, but what is the timeline? Yeah, see, look, you're already doing better. You are already more worried about the canon timeline than whoever wrote your source. So you can get silly with it. My self-confidence has been greatly improved by knowing I'm a better writer than Disney. Exactly. Oh goodness, lots of messages. If companies and creators can suddenly decide something canon or not, so can we. Absolutely. Doctor Who. Pokemon. Oh no, not Yu-Gi-Oh! I like how this this panel is about personal empowerment. Yes, that's exactly what it's about. Someone just shouted Minecraft, and I completely agree. Ronnie, I'm 1,000,000 years old. You can't do this to me. I can't even say normal words right. When it comes to something being good, I measure it on a metric of good as in I liked it, and good as in it's well made. And many things are just good as in I like it. Warcraft is good as in I like it. Is it well made? The game runs, and it's usually pretty functional. The artists always do an incredible job. The artwork is amazing. The music is amazing. The story? Uh, you know, I feel like a lot of people feel that way. Thank you, Ronnie. That's the exact graph I was thinking about. You're my lovely assistant. You're just finding things for me. All right, we have 7 minutes left. Does anyone have any other questions? Anything they want to talk about? We kind of only have time for another topic or two. I want to make sure we cover everything everyone's like dying to get into. Medivh, you're not too pretty to help. Thank you. Medivh's the one running the Fiction Folk Roundup later, by the way. If you're Fiction Folk, you're going to want to attend that. It's a romp for talking about being fictional in some way, comparing sources, and just generally having a good old time. And you're not too pretty to help because you're running that. Also, you're an old man. Panel questions. Hope this isn't a bad question. I found my mind wanting to throw a writer's original canon out the window when I'm listening to someone's fictive experience, very much like a tourist that wants to know better from someone who's lived it. As silly as it might sound, what might you recommend for someone who wishes to learn respectfully other than listen intently? Ooh, huh. I feel like there's nothing wrong with still liking canon, even if you know a fictive that threw it out the window. No worries about the typos. There's nothing wrong with liking canon or liking an AU you have or going along with their version because there are infinite versions of any story. It's not disrespectful to prefer a different version or to mostly stick to a different version. So what I might recommend. I don't know. I just think just listening, talking to people. If you want to learn about, where they've been, ask them if they want to talk about it. And if so, talk about it. So I have an interesting thing in 2 lives/timelines where I've erased my memories intentionally. Is that like a go wild and use that blank slate to your advantage situation through this lens? If you want to. If you erase it intentionally, you can keep it blank, or you can go crazy, go stupid. It really is whatever you want to do. It's a tool for your toolbox, not really a philosophy of what you need to do. It's available if you want it, and if you decide no, then don't. All right, next panel looks like it's in 33 minutes, which is Poppy. Poppy says I can do panel 5 minutes. It's 33. Don't worry, Poppy. You have more time than 5. You're on a 30. Don't worry. Yeah, no, I was like, wait, I thought I would have time to go back downstairs and get back to my computer. I don't want to have to listen on my laptop. And the reason I'm on my laptop is because I have other people in the room with my main computer, and I can't kick them out, but I don't want background noise. Max says you can have completely different opinions about the same canon as someone else with the same fictomere. It's not like you need to argue with each other. You can compare, contrast your experiences, and have a respectful conversation about it. Maybe learn something new. I completely agree. Okay, I would go crazy. I would cast many many beautiful spells in order to sit down speak to another Khadgar. I would love to do that. Or even just like anyone else from Warcraft. If anyone else is from Warcraft, feel free to shoot me PM. I'd love to talk about it. I'd love to talk about our differences. I want to talk about the ways that we're different. I love that shit. Ooh, you want to hang out and talk about how different we are. Ooh. Not as great as it's hyped up to be. Sometimes. It depends on who you find. Some people are lots of fun. Treehouse, for example, of course, Anduin and Arathian. We have a great time. We love talking about it. Blair, you're lovely. Thank you. You keep me sane. I was going crazy for like putting this panel together. All right. Sometimes I wonder if I'm an animal from the Wavers, but it's very different than a person like Khadgar. More and less than you'd think. It gives you a very interesting perspective on canon and the world and everything. Speaking as someone who one of the hosts is a Deathclaw from Fallout, which is very different than being a character from Fallout. But he has lots of very interesting perspectives on canon and wants to talk to other people from Fallout. So if you figure out that that's true, open to talking about it if you want. Happy to chat. All right, we are coming up on the end of the panel. Thank you all for attending. This was so much fun. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you had a good time. And I will hopefully see you around the con, and hopefully I'll also see you at the Fiction Folk Roundup later today. I know some of you, it's like 4 a.m. Please go to sleep. And have a nice rest of your day. Thank you.